I'm sorry?
All copies. Destroy them.
Adam Sandler movies. They get a bad rep, but are they really all that bad? I mean, surely they're not all bad. I have some fond memories of a few of his earlier movies. Yeah, not that one. Keep that one in the deep, dark recesses of my memory, please. As I was saying, Adam Sandler does get dunked on from time to time, but is he really that bad? If we're judging his career solely off of the subject of today's review, it's not looking too good depending on which way you look at it. I saw this movie once when it came out, and I was a kid at the time, so it left me feeling mostly confused. Will it garner the same reaction with me now? Let's find out. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
The movie opens with this weird segment of twins being interviewed, and they say some pretty stereotypical twin things.
Like when things are bad, and we don't really gotta say anything to each other, we just make these sounds. It's like, ah, ah.
Not gonna lie, every pair of twins that I've met has said something like this. The opening credits have some B-roll of some fraternal twins growing up together. It's assumed that they're the titular characters of this film. It's also suggested in this segment that Jill has always been considered an embarrassment by Jack. It then cuts to present day, where Jack, played by Adam Sandler, is an advertisement executive. His co-worker tells him about Dunkin' Donuts wanting to do an ad for their new drink, the Dunkachino, but it must have Al Pacino for them to agree to it. That's a pretty high demand and it seems pretty unreasonable to me, but I don't work in advertising.
Well, never say never. Remember, you didn't think we could get Brad Pitt to do that Radio Shack commercial. I was right. Well, you can't be right all the time.
This is a pretty minor offense compared to some of the other attempts at humor in this film, but I've understood jokes like this. I understand why they're funny for an audience, but it doesn't make much sense in-universe to me. Does the guy just have a really bad memory? It doesn't make sense to forget something like that. Jill is coming for a visit for a few days, and Jack dreads such a visit, reminding himself that he loves his sister on the drive to pick her up. Jill is also played by Sandler, by the way.
Where were you? I've been waiting forever for you. This place is creeping me out.
Okay. Dual roles are always going to be difficult and therefore will always be impressive to me to a degree, depending on how well the person pulls it off. The makeup honestly isn't that bad, it's the voice. If Sandler just spoke in a higher pitch and lost the lisp, it would be more effective in my opinion. At a Thanksgiving dinner party, Jill gets upset that Jack hasn't put her seat next to his, and although she seems to get along decently well with the rest of Jack's family at first, she antagonizes their homeless guest, and Jack consistently alienates her, causing her and the homeless guy to storm out. In all fairness, one of the lines during this scene did make me laugh.
Face it, we shared Mom's womb. We were roommates.
Jack's wife Erin calms Jill down, and the next day, Jack watches a video of Al Pacino having a nervous breakdown on stage. I mostly felt kind of awkward watching it, but a look at that ancient YouTube layout gave me flashbacks. We also get introduced to Jack's gardener, Felipe, along with his catchphrase.
Who are you? Are you a gardener or something?
Nice stereotype, very imaginative. And I can tell that catchphrase is going to be used every time this guy is on screen. He will be important to the story later though, so keep him in mind. Jill decides to stay until the end of Hanukkah, as their mother has died, and she now lives alone in the Bronx. This leaving date will keep getting later and later throughout the film, much to Jack's horror of course. She does a bunch of activities that she couldn't necessarily do at home, like going costume shopping with her niece, being a contestant on The Price is Right, riding on a jet ski and going horseback riding. I remember thinking that this effect was bad even as a kid, and I just ended up feeling really sorry for the horse. with Jack wanting Jill out of the picture and Jill being pressed about her love life by Jack's children, they all decide to set up a dating profile online for Jill. How is this funny? Genuinely, what's funny about this? Later that night, Jack and his children find Jill sleeping next to a box of tissues after crying herself to sleep, and it's just sad. I think this is meant to give Jack a reminder that Jill is his sister who loves him and is eccentric yet very lonely, but his later decisions don't reflect this at all. This includes spicing up her dating profile without her permission, but this also leads to a successful match. Her date begins with one of those cliché walking down the stairs moments, but sadly it ends when her date, played by the late Norm Macdonald, walks out on her. Again, it's just kinda sad. Feeling guilty, Jack agrees to take Jill to a Lakers game, where Al Pacino just so happens to be— Is that Johnny Depp? I don't remember him being in this movie, I'm just confused to be honest. How much did they pay these two to be in this movie? This leads to them being on the celebrity cam, despite Al donning a disguise, which gives Jack the idea to talk him into agreeing to the Dunkin' Donuts advertisement. Al completely ignores Jack, however, as he is fascinated by Jill. Jack's co-workers throw a surprise party for both siblings, no one at Jack's place of work having met Jill before due to Jack's embarrassment of her. Again, this part of the story is just sad, and makes Jack seem like a dick.
Really, it's fascinating. How does it work, Mr. Subway Sandwich? Just tell me more.
Just Jared's fine.
I was not prepared for that, oh my god. Okay, there are cameos in this movie, and not all of them have aged very well. Let's leave it at that. Jill ends up leaving left out at the party, and Al Pacino just so happens to be there. He tricks her into coming into his house, which is creepy, but she's pretty chuffed when he orders his chef to make her whichever birthday cake she wants. She isn't impressed by his advances though, and leaves. The next morning, Felipe invites Jill to a party with his family. She gets along well with them, minus his grandmother, who she keeps injuring by accident. Felipe and his grandmother are apparently also played by the same actor, which is cool I guess, the makeup is pretty good. Al breaks into Jack's home looking for Jill while she's out, and he does various other creepy things like lay on her bed where she's left a sweat stain, and gets aggressive with Jack. He agrees to do the Dunkin' Donuts ad if Jack can get Jill to go out with him, so Jack manipulates Jill to stay even longer despite his previous protests. Jack, his family, and Jill all go on a cruise, and they have a cute moment where they skip together, but this ends in another argument when Jill refuses to go on another date with Al on the cruise. Feeling desperate, Jack impersonates his sister to attend the date. This is the part of the film that always came to mind whenever someone brought it up. It was so shocking and ludicrous to me as a kid. Feeling guilty about the fight earlier, Jill calls Jack to apologize, but he answers in her voice and she hears Al in the background. Realizing Jack's true motivations and what he's doing, Jill is incredibly hurt. Meanwhile, Al starts insulting Jack on the date, which a disguised Jack doesn't take very well, leading to a physical fight. What the hell? This is just a shock humor thing. This is Family Guy level writing. Just why? Al immediately gives Jill a pep talk about how she's taken for granted, and when he says that Jack will only realize how much he loves her when it's too late, the disguised Jack is filled with regret. It's very melodramatic and soap opera-y, but Jill has gone home by the time Jack gets back to their rooms. At a restaurant in the Bronx, Jill is picked on by a group of bullies from school, but this is interrupted when Jack arrives to reconcile. The Queen Bee, Monica, played by David Spade in drag, starts fighting Erin unprovoked, but Jill gives her the old one too. Al arrives to give Jill the message that he accepts her rejection, but that there is someone more worthy of her affection. When the family drive home, they find Felipe and his children there, and Jill returns his feelings. The movie ends on what I think is the most well-remembered scene from it, the Dunkachino ad.
What's my name?
Dunkachino! Dunkachino!
I don't know what it is about the poor guy, but I really hate the guy in the Dunkachino costume. It's nothing personal against the actor, but the costume and face paint just filled me with an unbridled rage. Upon my first viewing of this, I also noticed that the pun doesn't even work, as pointed out on the film's IMDb page. I don't know how I did it, but somehow I managed to survive watching this film. Twice. I know, it's a miracle. It has some ironic fans, and while I don't think that this film is quite one of the worst films ever made, it's definitely Sandler's worst yet from what I've seen. It has such a bad reputation for good reason. This movie won every category at the Razzies, something that shocked even me. The movie has some merits if you look hard enough, like the effects are pretty good, the twins being on screen together does look a little goofy, but not distractingly so. The makeup for the jewel rolls also look pretty good, as I said, although Jill is very clearly Adam Sandler in drag. So, what makes this movie so bad? Personally, I don't think it has a good balance of humour, and a lot of the attempted jokes are very childish, but not in a way that even a child would find funny. I certainly didn't back in the day. A lot of the jokes rely on Jill being gross, or her brother being embarrassed of her, or people finding her attractive. The biggest problem is that a lot of it is just really mean-spirited. Yes, Jill is eccentric, unhygienic, and unexpectedly masculine in universe, but she's portrayed as being well-meaning and has sympathetic moments, making Jack seem immature and even malicious at times. Overall, the issue with this movie is the type of bad that it is. What makes this movie bad isn't that it's a cheap cash grab with an eye-catching premise, or that its creators are just incompetent. It comes from this type of cringe humour that was unpopular even at the time. Well, that's all for this video. Be sure to follow me on social media as they are all linked in my description box. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time, 'cause Polos is life, 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 Polos is life. Sleep all night and then Polos is life.